Okay, so we're trying to calculate relative risk, and in order to do that, we need both the incidence and the exposed. We need the incidence and the not exposed, and that's what these two icons stand for. So for the incidence exposed, what we are looking for is the number new cases among exposed over the total exposed. And that's just based on how we calculate incidence rates, right? So where do we go find the number of new cases among the exposed? Well, we're saying among the exposed. Where do we go find to see exposed? Yes, right? So we're looking at data only in this row. To find the number of new cases amongst the exposed, cases are in this column, right? So in order to find our new cases amongst the exposed, that is box A. So A. Then it's over the total exposed. Where do we find the total exposed? We find that over here, which is A plus B. So we calculate the incidence in the exposed as the number of new cases among the exposed over the total exposed, which we can also write as A over A plus B. I think it's much better to use this knowledge right here because it'll help you from getting confused in the future rather than trying to memorize the letters. The letters can get a little bit confusing. So then how do we go find the incidence in the not exposed? Well, we got to look among our people who are not exposed. So we're looking at this subcategory people. Among the people who are not exposed, so the number new cases not exposed over total non-exposed. And that's what this stands for. So where do we go find that data? Well, if we want to know the number of new cases, we have to go, yes, it was a case. And yes, and no, it was not exposed. So where do we find our new cases among those people who were not exposed? That is box C. And then we're going to go look for the total not exposed, which is over here, which is C plus D. Sorry for the janky handwriting. So C over C plus D is the total not exposed. Now, if you remember before in the previous slide, what we were looking at was this equation, IE divided by INE. So, in order to get that, you'd have to divide these guys. So, it'd be like putting this data over this data. So, one of the important things to remember when you do this is you need to put it in brackets when you make sure you do these calculations. And I think it's a lot easier to understand it if you do it like this. So when I put this in my calculator, this is how I put it in so that it doesn't get messed up. So I put in bracket A divided by A plus B bracket divided by C divided by C plus D. If you don't do this, you can end up having bad data. So you got to remember your brackets when you're doing this thing. But ultimately, that's how we calculate our relative risk.